This is a very unusual role-playing game in a number of facets. The first being that it is based in, or the origin of the game came from a book that was published and illustrated by a Swedish illustrator, and this is the person's name. It is that book presents a almost like a bestiary of the Vaesen that are in this book from a it's almost like a anthology of them based in the Swedish folklore. And then this book, the role-playing game, takes that and places it into a setting. It is the Northern Europe of the 19th century, but not as we know it today. It is a land where the myths are real. A cold reach covered by vast forests, its few cities lonely beacons of industry and enlightenment, a new civilization dawning. But in the countryside, the old ways still hold sway. There, people know what lurks in the dark. They know how to fear it. Throughout history, supernatural Vaesen have lived side by side with the people of Scandinavia, but these creatures are not perceptible to human senses unless they choose to be. Invisible, they have helped out on farms, assisted in calving, made sure that stray ewes find their way home, and kept people safe during harsh winters or wildfires in exchange for some of the farm's milk and grain. They have filled the fields with flowers, shown the way to ponds where people can see their future reflected on the surface, and whispered dreams into the ears of the sleeping. However, here in this world, the industrialization, war, and revolutions in 19th century Scandinavia are threatening this way of life. And as such, the Vaesen of Scandinavia are changing as well. In certain parts of Scandinavia, the supernatural seems to have grown stronger and started acting erratically, like a storm sweeping over the farmlands. There are some people in Scandinavia who are able to see the Vaesen even when they're trying to stay invisible, and it's called having the sight. You are one of them. At some point, you experienced something that scared or hurt you. Maybe you almost died in a fire, or a werewolf chose to reveal itself to you, and after that, nothing was the same. You and several others who also have the sight have gathered in central Sweden. You've learned that there used to be an organization called the Society whose mission was to study and combat the Vaesen. But the last members of that society went missing or left the organization about 10 years ago. You have your reasons for wanting to track down Vaesen and protect people from them, and as such you will embark on long journeys to remote villages and regions of the wilderness, attempting to uncover the secrets of Scandinavia. That is the setup for the game, that you are playing and we can see here at the outset the incredible art that is in this book and is such a big part of playing this game, of thinking about this world. And for the soloist, when there is such a visual component to a game, I think it further helps in bringing you into the world and keeping you there, relocating you there as you play through the world. And in this particular case, this is almost presented as if it were an art book, the art being what was, as mentioned, the genesis of this game. Advice I often give is to start by developing an environment and then put your characters into an environment, as opposed to beginning just with characters. However, in this situation where the environment is already so developed and where we are going to be focusing on the existing environment as opposed to trying to create our own, and we're going to be sort of diving deeply into what is already here as opposed to trying to create something on our own, I am going to start with characters. That's going to be the basis of actually how we develop the story. Before I get to this, though, I'm going to look at the characters, and as I'm just flipping through here to show you as I talk the gorgeous art in the book, because as I said, it's a mistake not to focus on it when playing, and not to allow yourself to have the experience of this art be a part of your experience of play, because it is so closely linked. It is almost like you're playing an art book in that regard. The procedure we're going to go through here, the first thing, working through this, my sort of solo step-by-step message or guide when approaching this game, is actually to start with character creation. I know that I want to have 3 characters because the relationships among the characters, and in this game, you can see this is the official character sheet here. There's room here for relationships with each PC and the others in the party. That is going to probably generate my concept for what they're actually doing. So what we're going to do, we talked about how the PCs are these human characters who are gifted with this sight, and I need, first off, they're presenting in the way the rules are, they give you the list of things to do to present a character. The first being, of course, to choose the archetype. So I'm going to look at the archetypes, but I want to draw your attention here to this choose a trauma and choose a dark secret and choose your relationships, because again, noting this as part of the character creation, I think, is significant to start to think about the archetypes I want, because all of this is going to be starting to develop the story. The trauma is the event that gave us the sight, that it is whatever happened to us that was allowing us access to understanding what might be going on in the world. And then the dark secret is the problem we're ashamed of and sort of keep to ourselves. It could be linked to the trauma or perhaps not. If you watch the channel enough, you know that when academics are a character option, I often choose them. I have lived a life adjacent to academia at certain points in my life and have a great fondness for academics. So that stands out to me here. But an occultist also is another one. Priest, I mean, these are all, the private detective, I mean, these are all so compelling. I like the idea of a servant. The idea of a servant here is interesting to me. And again, you can, the art is just so suggestive. Of course, we don't have to have a servant who is like this older guy necessarily, but the idea of a servant on some level already starts to establish a relationship, because like, why would a servant say we have an academic, because it's hard for me to just not be if there's a witch hunter or an academic, I'm going to be that. I just got to say we have an academic and a servant. There are so many possibilities already for relationships between them, even not even looking at the suggestion of the relationships here, because of course we don't have to use those suggestions. There's just so many different ways to go. The concept of a writer is interesting. You don't often see that. You know, I think I'm going to go in a different direction than I normally do. Maybe I'm going to go with a writer, a detective, and a doctor. This is not what I would normally do. But I don't know, I'm feeling some concept of like the writer being the primary PC. All right, skip the doctor. The writer, the servant, and the private detective. That's it. I'm getting a feeling of the writer is the sort of the primary PC. Something happened in her family or something, I don't know. The servant is going to be a childhood, maybe the servant's actually going to be maybe her nanny, or maybe it will be the loyal family butler, kind of like this guy. And she's hired this private detective to, I don't know, I'm getting a kind of feeling like that. I've got my characters going here, and we're going to start with Sylvina Johansson. She is a writer. She's a 25-year-old writer who is the center of the story, and really the crux of who she is that she is the child who has grown up in this world, and her family has been cursed, and her motivation is to learn about this curse. She witnessed the taking of her father by Vaesen at some point in her youth, in her lesser childhood, and now that she is grown up to be 25, she is trying to learn more about this and maybe find him. She doesn't even know if he's still around. Her dark secret, though, is that we're not sure whether she was so innocent when the Vaesen came to take her father. Maybe there's some suspicion around her. Maybe she even helped in that matter. She comes from a family of importance in the world. In who is she with? Well, what does she have? I gave everybody just the equipment that it seemed like they would have, and I ignored the rules about wealth and purchasing power and things like that. I just want to give everybody the things that it seems like I would want them to have. And she has the capacity, so this gives her a kitchen knife and some opera glasses and some writing utensils. Who is she with? Well, she's with her loyal servant, Rask. He is 87 years old. He has served the family for her whole life and even before, but his motivation and connection to her is not only his love of her, but he too lost his family to Vaesen decades ago and has his own agenda in seeking revenge for his own losses. And his dark secret is that he actually had worked for the Vaesen decades ago. He was working for the Vaesen, and we don't know if this is before they became agitated and aggressive or not, but he has some kind of connection to them, and this may or may not play itself out in our story. We don't know. I haven't actually indicated the relationships to Sylvina. I haven't written this down, but of course he is very dedicated to her. To the final member of the trio, Anders Jarv is the private detective hired by Sylvina, and I say his motivation is, quote, helping, because again, he's got his own difficulties with the Vaesen. I say it's the same as Sylvina, that all of them have been traumatized to some extent by the Vaesen, although again, we don't know with Anders what the nature of that is. He may have been sort of with them at some point. So Anders Jarv is here also for his own reasons, not just being hired by Sylvina, and he may betray them. There may be a moment of betrayal. We don't know. He's suspicious of Rask, the servant who is so attached to Sylvina, and he also has some suspicion of Sylvina about perhaps her role in whatever happened with her father, or I don't know. He's got a revolver and a knife, as well as some lockpicks, and Rask has a revolver, some bandages, and a compass, which might help us on our journeys. So these are the 3 PCs that I've developed, and they're each going to, per the rules, they each will have a memento that they are carrying. And so I thought I would do that role here on camera just to sort of see how we might develop this from the story. So we'll start off with Rask, his character sheets up front, and we're going to see what does Rask have, and I'll be reading blue and green, 23. He has a scruffy cat. Okay, so I think there is a mechanism in here to have like I think there's actually a rule for not so much a familiar, but something traveling with you. But there's a scruffy cat that's traveling with Rask, and maybe this cat is magical. Maybe this cat is the scruffy cat from the family. We will make a note of that, as well as any in-game mechanics that might bring us. And Anders Jarv, the private detective, what does he have with him? 46. He is carrying a sunstone. It is a cut mineral. Okay, I'm not sure if that would have a specific use, but we will make a note of that. And then we have, did I say blue and green? I can't remember. Well, I think of blue and green, 63, a rabbit's foot or some other lucky charm with Sylvina. So Sylvina's got, she's got maybe like a childhood kind of charm that we all have these things in childhood, if we remember them as adults or we don't, that we felt gave us good luck or that we just kind of like to have around. I had a little plastic bulldog little trinket thing. It was about this big, and it was like a bulldog dressed up like a boxer, and I certainly wish I still had it now. I love that. So maybe she's got that. Maybe she's got something like that. And so now this is our party of adventurers for this story. The next thing I'm going to do is go to this Vaesen table, and it's a table that will give us a random one, and it says that the reminder, the Vaesen, is blamed, rightly or wrongly, for the local misdeed. So we're going to see what we know, that Sylvina blames Vaesen for taking her father. And the question is, was that right or wrong, the blame? And the blame has fallen on the ash tree wife. We rolled a 12. And let's look at the ash tree wife and see what we can learn about her. And here she is, the ash tree wife. Some ash trees are inhabited by an ash tree wife, a terrifying female Vaesen that is bound to the tree, demanding offerings from the people at certain times of the year. She can haunt those who damage the tree, spread diseases, and twist people's minds. The ash tree wife resembles a human woman combined with certain features of the tree: long green hair, bark-like skin, and horns like branches. She controls the tree and all the greenery in its surrounding area. So she can enchant, she can curse. The vegetation in the area around the ash tree reflects the mood of the ash tree wife. She can control this vegetation, and the only way to kill her is to cut down or burn the ash. So she has been blamed for taking the father, Sylvina's father, and she can also open underground passages in the tree's root system for hiding or trapping people who fall in. And if you look at this picture, you can see perhaps the remnants of some people that have done that. So this is the ash tree wife is the source of the dismay in Sylvina's life, and she is setting out perhaps to find her and interact with her in some way, and maybe get clues as to what happened to her father. I don't know. This is around which we're going to be basing our story. As our story opens, the PCs arrive at the Witch Cat Inn in the middle of a thunderstorm with harsh winds and a dampness seeping through their clothes. The darkness between the lightning swallows them over and over. At first, the inn feels like salvation from the storm and the dark. The ceiling may be leaky, but there are warm fires, oil lamps, songs and laughter, hot meals, and beer. But step by step, being inside the Witch Cat turns even worse. The outside darkness makes its way into the building. What seemed like a place of refuge feels dangerous. Something feels like it's lurking in the corner. Shadows are moving. And stepping forward out of the darkness of this inn is someone. Oh, it's a fortune teller. A fortune teller is stepping forward. She is a seer. And what is her name? Her name is, she introduces herself, she is Paulina. Paulina steps forward, and she is, we don't know what actually her attitude toward us is going to be, but let's, she's offering to tell us something, like the location perhaps of this ash tree wife, and she is a seer. So here are her stats, and I think what's going to happen now, well, let's see. Let's maybe find something about if we get her attitude toward us, or her attitude in general. She's extremely, let's see, nope, she's not extreme. She's hungry. She wants something from us, but she's a fortune teller, so she's offering maybe to tell us something about like where this tree is, or some vision she might have. And I think she sees Sylvina as someone who can give something to her. So we're going to do maybe an opposed manipulation roll here to see who is going to prevail in terms of the giving of the thing. And for Sylvina, that's going to be just a flat out empathy roll. We've got five dice here. For our seer, She's got, let's see, she's got 3, and she doesn't have the manipulation skill. So it's gonna be 5 against 3 to see what we've got. And I will give this will be the Paulina, the fortune teller, and this will be Sylvina. And we'll see who can prevail on this roll and what that might tell us. We're looking for 6s here for successes. Is going to be 6s. And what do we have? We've got 1, 6. We got a very, listen, it's a lucky thing that Sylvina had such a strong stat, because she does succeed, but not overwhelmingly. So grudgingly, we're not going to get any additional clues. We're not going to get any steps along the way, but the fortune teller is going to take out her magic ball and look into it to tell us something about the location of where this ash tree's wife is in the world and in the countryside. We're already in the countryside, by the way. And she's going to tell us that, well, this is it. We got a success, but she's not going to tell us maybe exactly where it is. She's going to tell us something of a location of note. And the location of note is going to be a mansion in the countryside that we will need to go to. Maybe there's somebody or something in this mansion somewhere on the countryside that will give us more information. But clearly, the ash tree's wife is not going to be, the tree is not going to be in the mansion. Maybe the tree is going to be on the mansion property. We're going to need a way to travel to this mansion, and the Vaesen rules per se don't have what I want in terms of travel. There's a lot that's left abstracted, and to be fair, in the scenario book, there are places to go and people to interact with. There's some discussion of travel, but not what I think I'm going to need for doing this type of solo play. So I'm going to Into the Weird and Wild. I did post a video just on this entire book, and you can look at that video. There's hopefully a link to it here. I'll put a link down below as well if you want to learn more about this great supplement. It's a wilderness supplement, and I'm going to use some of the rules in here to simulate travel for supply. So I'm going to give everybody abstracted. I'm going to give everybody just 10 supply, and we'll see. I'll put it under here, 10 supply for everybody. And then I'm going to roll for some specific sites here that we're going to possibly encounter along the way. This is very abstract, but it's going to be a way of measuring how we're traveling and of populating the land. And I'm going to say, for the purposes of this video right here, I'm going to just choose, just going to get the number of D6s. Let's see, we've got 4. I like odd numbers, so we're going to go with 5, and we're going to roll these up on here to sort of see, we're starting here. Again, I can't stress enough, this is an abstracted, we rolled 3 2s. So what we have based on this is we have either groves or campsites here. This is a stump or a large puddle, and this is a house with a large ring of stones. So based on all this, we did actually say that we were seeking a mansion. So I'm going to call this our mansion, and I will do let's see, we're going to do a die roll to see where we start. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as to kind of where we're entering this forest area here, and that was a 1. So we're going to be entering from the north here and ultimately traveling down to this house or the area where this Vaesen is, and we have some predefined areas here. Additionally, we're going to go here for some more specifics along the way as we move through these hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 5 hexes there, but we can indicate we are going to have d6 plus 1 number of trails. So we will roll to see. We're going to get 6 trails, and 1, 2, 3. So we could connect all of these. So here we are. I translated those die rolls into this map here, and we are entering the area of our adventure up here as indicated, and we do have this difficult path. Now we're entering this hex, we're on a difficult path, and the first thing we're going to do is, I guess, an observation test to sort of see, can we see anything? Do we know which way we're going here? We do have this kind of mapped out, so maybe this is a map that somebody gave us. Ultimately, this area here is the hidden path, and this is probably where that the tree wife lives, because we know that she's near the mansion, but not actually at the mansion based on the other things we had done. So we're trying to make our way down to here. Each hex is going to represent a day's travel, and we're going to begin by just doing just basically doing an observation test to see what, if anything, we can see here. And we're going to roll as a party, and let's see, Sylvina's got the best options here because she's got a 5 on empathy. Her observation is 2, although we've just indicated that we're sort of in this difficult, dense path area. So that is going to be at a -2. So she's going to roll 5 d6s just to see if she can get any kind of successful observation here, and she didn't. So these are 1s. So we can't see anything. We don't really know which way to go, and they're, as such, because of that, we're not going to be able to choose where we're going. We're just going to randomize it, and we'll roll a d3 to see 1, 2, 3 which of the 3 hexes we're going to go into, and it's going to be 1. So we are starting off in the wrong direction. We're starting off in this unexplored hex, and that's because that's represented by that roll that we did. So let's I'm going to go here now and see what I think that's just a random trail and a path. Let's see what we get here if we roll up this D50 table here. All right, give this a roll. Here, if we get over 50, we're going to subtract 50 from the roll to see what it is. And indeed, we got a 55, so that translates to a 5 here on this table. And a thin recessed trail has been gouged by hoof track and animal use. So there's going to be a thin trail here. It says recess. Maybe there's like a cliff face or something. It's a trail going off somewhere. And let's see. I'm going to go to, I didn't see, we're going to roll on this. We're not in a dungeon, obviously, but we're going to modify this. And let's see sort of what we see here. 13, it's a monster only. So we are going to find something here. So in this thin trail, let's see, first of all, is it wet or dry season? So we're going to go odd, even. It's the wet season. And what exactly is the weather at the moment in this wet season? Oh, whoops, it wasn't a D8, it was 2D4. My mistake. So, all right, I can't find 2D4. I'm going to roll this once. I got a 2 plus a 2, so I got a 4. There's a light drizzle. So there's a light drizzle on this little path here, and we are going to encounter something, and I'm going to take it, I think I'm going to take it from this book here. As I said, this is also, there's 50 possible encounters here. They're not numbered, so I'm going to have to count off. Let's see, first of all, what we got. We got 25. So 25 in this is, we're walking along this path, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 22, 23, 24, 25. A Yunkin rotter. They're a lonely creature. It's a beast that rules over the ebb and flow of life. Standing taller than a polar bear and weighing almost twice as much. Its body is equal parts living vegetation, twisting flesh, and rotting debris. Well, that actually looks like something that we would find here. Nobody knows where they originate from. They're a lonely creature, so there's going to be one of them. So what I need to do, they're wildly intelligent and wise. All right. They are peering through the brush, and they come upon this unholy monster. It's part vegetation, it's part rotting flesh, and it's moving about in like an unpredictable pattern. And everywhere it stands, it's causing like rapid decay, and then something is blooming, and then there's rapid decay, and it's a confusing mess, and there's a putrid smell, and it is clearly a monster with a body of corpse flesh, and on its head is a crown of eyes. So it's all seeing. But our party is standing in this brush here, and we mentioned that there was like a recessed trail. So they're trying to hide, but they want to sneak by this thing. And in order to do that, I'm going to do they're all going to have to roll stealth individually to see if they can pass by without being noticed. But before that, in order to even see if they can act per the Vaesen rules, they need to do a fear test. And a fear test is going to be done using either logic or empathy, and then adding additional dice for everyone in the party. And so it's Sylvina with the high empathy and Anders Yarv with the high logic is going to be giving us a baseline of 5 dice for that. And then we're also going to add on 3 to the party. Now, the fear value of most of the Vaesen is 1 to 2. And this one is going to be a fear value of 1. However, it's also going to have a recurring fear value. So every round of interaction, whatever that's going to be, they're going to have to re-roll this fear. So we're really just looking out of these 8 dice. We just need to get 1 success to allow us to act, and we got 2 actually. So we can have Anders Yarv is going to peer out of the brush, and I think he's going to attempt to sneak forward and get off a shot to alert. Well, no, they're going to try to sneak. I think they're going to sneak. Why are they going to do that? This is a nature spirit. By the way, the Vaesen in this rule book aren't exactly ever killed. There is a step-by-step procedure there's rituals that you can perform to get rid of them. There are things that as you make successful attacks against them, there's responses that they have. In this case, we've passed the fear test. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to roll stealth and sneak by. So this is going to be individual rolls for everybody, starting with Anders. So he's going to roll for his stealth. He's going to be rolling his 4 green dice and 2 black. We just need to get 1 success, and he got his success. So Anders is going to be able to be sneaking by this thing. So Vina is going to be rolling. She's only got 3 dice, and she's got the skill of 3 there for her precision, and she gets a success. So Anders and Sylvina are going to be sneaking by, and this leaves Rask, 87-year-old Rask, and he is perhaps, not surprisingly, the least stealthy. He has actually no stealth skill, so he'll just be rolling these 3 to see if he's able to sneak by, and he's not. So as Sylvina and Anders move through the brush and do not alert this monstrosity, Rask is not able to do that. The monstrosity is alerted, and we know that he has to do an immediate save versus poison is how it's described. And the way we're going to model that here is he will have to, well, I guess it's going to be in essence, he's going to be trying to do a dodge get out of the way of this monster that's sort of stepping around and trying to put disease everywhere. And that would be using his agility. Now he, oddly, even though he's old, he's got a physique of 4. So see if he can get out of the way, and he can't. So Rask is going to suffer a physical condition here. I think he's going to become exhausted he's entangled in these vines, and he's going to become exhausted with this. And the question is, are we going to leave him behind? Are we going to attempt to extricate him? This thing is here. I think Anders, the only thing he and Sylvina have revolvers. They could try to get off a couple of shots, and if they did have success, I'm not sure maybe that would give them some time. I don't know. I think what we need to do actually is to roll for this, we need to actually do a reaction roll here, because what we've got here is just the innate response of this creature. It does poison the land, and we're going to go to our monster reaction table here and roll and see what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is a 5. It's a possible attack. So yes, it is hostile. We've got Rask here in the decayed, rotting area, and we've got Anders and Sylvina in the brush, and they're going to attempt an interaction with this monster to try to persuade the monster to let go of Rask and let them continue on. Based on the description, we know that if they can persuade this monstrosity that they are not evil, that they're not against it, they're not a usurper, it's not going to be aggressive. So we're going to need to do some type of persuasion roll to make that happen. And to do that, we're going to do an opposed manipulation roll. This Vaesen has a manipulation value of 9, so it's going to be rolling 9 dice. And Anders, let's see, Anders, he doesn't have, it's got to be Sylvina, I think. We don't have a lot here. We do not have a lot. 5. She's got the best chance on this. We don't have a lot going on here. So this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough to convince. We have to get more successes than, only 1. Wow. All right. We got to get 2 successes here. And we have 2, we have nothing. We have nothing. So we're not going to be able to talk to this or to convince this monster, and instead its tendrils around Rask are just increasing their pressure and increasing the rot, and Rask is struggling at this point. Anders takes out his revolver, and the procedure for if he gets a hit, we're going to base this on the Ashwife. It will shake the vegetation, and thematically it will loosen the grip on Rask, and if it fails, it's going to just strangle Rask. So this is kind of an all or nothing thing. He's got let's see, for his ranged combat, he has a 2 skill. I'm going to use 2 skill, and he's using precision, and that's going to be 4. And he's also going to get a +2 bonus for the revolver itself. And we got to get a success here, or Rask is toast. We got a success, but so it's sort of a status quo. I guess the vines release a little bit. Rask is struggling, and let's see, he's got his physique, so let's see, can he get any purchase on these vines? And he cannot, and he's getting more and more tired, and each time this happens, he's He's kind of getting exhausted. We know that he is very devoted to Sylvina, and this beast is going to soon turn its attention to the rest of them. And Rask is imploring them to go forward with their mission, to leave him behind. And so as Rask is being subsumed by this creature that's part corpse and part rotted vegetation, there's this putrid smell and just overall decay. He reaches around, he turns his back on Sylvina and Anders Jarg and tosses something in their direction. And what he's tossing is that scruffy cat that he had. It's a screeching, scruffy cat with its claws extended, and in a moment of just reaction, Sylvina reaches out and grabs it, and she and Anders Jarg run, and they run as far as they can away from Rask as he is consumed by this creature. And they are running in a direction south here, and they are running into this hex here, and at that point nighttime is descending, and we are going to go into our supply check. Rask, unfortunately, is lost to us. So as Anders and Sylvina are making their way down south, nighttime is coming, and nighttime out in these lands is a perilous time. They're going to need to attempt to make a camp, to find some food and water and sufficient shelter. And the way we're doing this, we talked about earlier in the videos, we're rolling these 3d6s on a 4 to a 6 that will represent their ability to do one of those things. So they've had one success. This is obviously all very abstracted, and I'm using the rules from this Into the Weird and Wild as I stated. So with the one success, this represents it's difficult. So to get the food, water, and shelter, they've had a partial success on that. It's some bad times now, so they're each going to get a level of exhaustion. And what they're going to do, rather than take that exhaustion, which would be a condition, is they're going to each consume a supply. So as mentioned, they started with 10 supplies, so for the first night, they are each using up one of their supply in order to get by and make it into the next morning. And they do so, they awaken in an area, and let's see. Well, first of all, we're going to see if they're lost. On a roll of 1, they are lost. They're not lost, so they're going to have some sense of where they are. They're going to be, we know that this part previously determined is a kind of difficult area. They're sort of here right now, and looking around, they see 68 is an 18. A single aged suspension bridge stretches over a misty gorge. So there is some type of bridge. I think we recall that this trail here that they had been on was just said it was recessed. So I guess maybe there is some sort of gorge area here. There is a suspension bridge. They're going to need to travel over the bridge. And is there a suggestion? It's aged, so it could be, let's see, is it going to be unstable? We'll do a roll to see. You recall there had been a light drizzle, so it makes sense that it might be misty now. Well, it says it's aged, so I'm going to say it's likely that it's unstable. So let's go here. Let's go to this oracle. This is an Ironsworn oracle, and let's see, 10. Yes, it's unstable, but they're going to be able to make it across, and they'll make it across okay. But they are going to need to cross it with a successful test. And I think that what we're going to go for is where it's going to be more of a stealth. They're kind of creeping across this bridge, and Anders Jarv, being the detective, of course, is pretty stealthy. So he's going to be rolling a bunch of these dice to make sure that he can get across, and in fact, he slips. He slips and he drops his lockpicks. He slips. He doesn't fall down the gorge, but he drops his lockpicks. That's really the only equipment he has. They fall out of his pouch, and he's lost that as a result. And Sylvina is right behind him, and she is going to be rolling these dice to see if she has a better situation here, and she too is going to lose something. She only has two things. She has her opera glasses, which that's really important, and her writing utensils. Let's see, what does she lose? So on an odd, she'll lose the writing, and on an even, no, excuse me, on an odd, she'll lose opera, and an even writing. Oh, she loses her opera glasses. That's bad. So the two of them are having some struggles here. It's maybe the mist has made this bridge slippery. She dropped her opera glasses down the gorge. He dropped his lockpicks, and they're going to continue on here. They're going to continue moving south, and they are coming upon this small grove of trees here. And in the small grove of trees, what do they see? It's D20, and what do they see? 18. Ooh, it's special. It's special. What could special mean? What this is telling me is that we're out here in the forest, and there's going to be something here, some sort of native flora here, and Anders is going to look around for it. And I'm going to call this a challenging task. So he's got to get 2 successes with his search, and he's got some skills. He's got let's see, investigation. He's got 3 on that, and his logic is 5. So we're gonna look. We need to get 2 successes, and if with that, Anders is just going to find something in the forest, then that's going to be the special thing. And we did. So he came really close, but you know what? He's going to elect to push the roll here, and to do that, I don't think we've seen that yet in the video. He's going to get to re-roll everything, and as penalty, he's going to take a condition for that. So let's see, did we get, and we did. So he did it. He exerted himself in some manner to really look around and clear the brush. And what is he going to find? And for what he finds, we're going to go to the Herbalist Primer, and I put a link to that in the description here. I presented that on the channel not that long ago, actually. So there's a D100. Well, actually not D100. I'm going to go there to this list here of what could possibly be in the forest, because it is organized thematically that way. And I'm going to roll here to see what Anders is finding in the brush. There are 47 things that could be in the forest. So we're just going to roll, and oh my gosh, we rolled a 47. I was going to say we'll re-roll if we don't get what we need to get, but we rolled a 47, and that amounts to finding a yew tree. And so we're standing amid yew trees, and the yew tree can be farmed to get some poison, to put poison on your weapons. And we have here, let's see, what he's carrying. Well, he's got a revolver. That's not going to do it. But Sylvina has a kitchen knife, and I wonder if we can forage somehow this yew to put some poison on her kitchen knife. To go back to the condition, I forgot that Anders has a special talent, which is focused, and he gets to ignore penalties from conditions when making investigation tests, which is just what he did. So we don't need to pick up a condition for that. But the yew tree, as we learn, can be planted by graveyards to keep the lost souls from wandering. And we have in this area this indication that there is some type of grove of trees here. So I'm going to take this to mean that this is a signal of an area with perhaps some haunted dead that are being contained by these yew trees or are contained within the yew trees. We are going to move on from this, and as a sign that it's a time to leave this place, basically. And we're going to continue on south. We're entering a difficult, rather a dangerous trail here down to this area of what we determined was going to be like a stump of a tree or a sign that some of this forest has been started to be cleared in some way as we approach the manor here, and so another day of travel is passing. So we're going to do our check for the ability to find food, water, and shelter over the night, during the course of the night, and we'll roll here to see. We got one success on that, so this means it's bad times again, so we're all going to get one level of exhaustion, and we will mark that, the equivalent of that, on our character sheet. We're going to be using up some supply for that, each of us, and so Anders is down to 8, and Sylvina is also down to 8 as we continue on. And then we're going to check to see if we are on the path that we want to be or whether we get lost. We rolled a 3, so we're still continuing along down this path. And let's give us a sense of what we see. We're just on this random trail. And what do we see here? A 75 becomes a 25, and we see an eerily straight trail. The sound of echoing voices are ever present. Perhaps these are the haunted voices of, if this is an area of lost souls or perhaps a burial ground. They are not. We indicated that this was going to be dangerous, so perhaps they are here in the wilderness, and perhaps we need also to see if we can, can we move stealthily through this area? So Savina's got her precision, and we're going to roll to see how, if we can successfully pass through the area undetected by these lost souls or whatever are here. And Sylvina definitely is making some noise. Let's see with a double fail, we're going to be encountering something here. So Anders is his precision. Let's see, he's got a 4. He's a little bit more precise, a 4 and a 2. So he gets 1 extra die. Roll here to see. He's got 2 successes actually. So the overall party success here is that they hear these sounds and have a very eerie feeling, but they are not overtly detected. They continue moving along. We'll see if they are on their way or lost. They're still going in the direction that they want to be, and they are approaching this stump. Another day is passing, and they are potentially using up resources, and indeed they have failed to, at this point, do anything in terms of a success of surviving the night. We've had no successes, so there are 2 levels of exhaustion to all. So we're running down our supplies pretty quickly. We're down to 6 supplies each, and we're at this stump. I think we will, well, let's give another, see if I have, we're going to roll on this D100 to see if we can get any information about what this specifically might be. And I rolled a 64, which brings us to, old growth. A carpet of pulsing root-like growths cover and strangle everything within sight. The air grows heavy and airless, while life and color is drained from the surroundings. The old growth is a primordial life form, old when the world was young. It is driven by an insatiable hunger and seeks to consume all in its path. Well, that makes sense because we recall the description of this ash tree wife, and it indeed says that the vegetation around the area of it is controlled, the mood is controlled by it, and it can use the branches to attack or enclose people. So clearly we don't even need to do a die roll to see that this area is an extension. Maybe this is where she is or it is. I thought it was going to be here for whatever reason, but we have found it in proximity to the mansion, or at least we have found an area where there is this alive material in the ground, probably related to this whole structure, this whole area of land going back up to where we lost Rask is probably just a root system for this Vaesen. And from the beginning, we have probably been on some level entangled in her vines, not in her vines, in her root structure. The roots that she has are probably everywhere. And this is a clear symbol that we are approaching her, and indeed probably she has an awareness now that we are here. I think really what's dawning on our party is that it's not just a root system, but this is likely the above ground manifestation of a subterranean, basically graveyard, where this ash tree wife has taken her prey, and likely Sylvina's father is here, and likely Rask is here. And in fact, what wouldn't surprise me is that we recall that Rask was suspected of having worked with the Vaesen early on in his life, or having had some positive connection to them. So it's kind of suggesting to me here that maybe when Rask was lost and taken before, perhaps that wasn't unwillingly so much. Perhaps he was just leading them back to this area. Perhaps he's been working for the Vaesen all along. And Anders and Sylvina, this is dawning on them now. Sylvina is feeling the betrayal of her childhood minder that she had been so attached to, but maybe he is the one that actually drew them here and is within the ash tree wife now. Not sure. These are narrative possibilities that could emerge, but what I am sure of is mechanically we're going to need to do a fear test, because encountering the Vaesen for the first time, that is what needs to happen. They're looking for just one success here, and you can do the fear test using either empathy or logic, and they both have values of 5 on, well, Sylvina's got her 5 empathy, and Anders has his 5 logic. So we will be rolling, I'm not clear, I think they both need to test individually, and then you add onto it the 2 dice for the number of characters here. So in essence, we're going to be rolling 7 dice to do this test for each of them. I think we roll two different tests. In any case, we're looking for just one success. That fell off the camera, and we got just the one success here. I didn't even say who that was for. Let's just say that was Sylvina. And then for Anders, we have the 2 successes. So they're not going to get any of the terrified conditions here. They're not going to escape. They're not going to become paralyzed. They're going to interact with this. And what happens as we know from the description of the ash tree wife, is that she's going to try to entangle them in her root structure, which again, I'm sensing now this entire area is the root structure, and it is just this above ground manifestation of subterranean, whether it's graveyards or a kind of, I'm picturing like a natural great underground like tomb that is made out of not wood, but underground crypt not stone, but very, very strong wood and tendrils and vines and things like that. And they're going to be sucked into this if they can't make their successful agility tests to escape. So for Sylvina, her agility here is going to be, she's got a physique of 4, and she's got her agility, her agility rating of 2. So she's going to make this test, and she gets a success. So she's resisting being pulled under here. And for Anders, he's got his agility skill is just a 1, and his physique is a 3. So he's got, let's see if he can resist this, and he does too. So they are in a struggle here with this Vaesen, and as suggested, it feels to me like the story is telling me that Rask is now with the Vaesen, and in fact was involved somehow in bringing them to this place, and that this is going to be the central narrative moving forward, that they are ultimately not going to be able to escape this area, and they're going to get dragged into this underground graveyard, I don't know how else to say it, where Sylvina's father is, or maybe the ghost of her father is, and that the next part of their story is going to be this struggle to survive underground, and perhaps have an underground dungeon crawl kind of experience where the dungeon that they're in is this underground lair, or again, like I keep coming back to this concept of graveyard, and the encounters that they have will be with the various ghosts of Sylvina's family who are buried there, and she will continue her search for her father in that way. And I'm taking the story here just narratively because, well, for one thing, I'm running out of space for this video, but for another, if I were playing this on my own and I got to this place, there's a moment where the story is just pushing you in a particular direction, and I believe that we are at this moment now, and it is appropriate in many ways to essentially like end a session and then regroup and start a new scene. And what I would do next with this, which I'm not going to be able to do on camera, but what I would do next would be to go back to Rask, because we know that Rask was taken in by this Ashwife, to go back to Rask and to start a scene figuring out what has happened to him. And my feeling is that he is not gone, that he actually did betray Sylvina in a way, because we know at the outset that this was one of the dark secrets that we weren't sure. We'll find our character sheet here. This is Rask's character sheet, and it was very central to the initial character creation that we think about the possibility of dark secrets. And this dark secret was that he worked for the Vaesen until he betrayed them, and he had lost his family to the Vaesen and was seeking revenge for his own family. Yet, he could still be working for them. Maybe he blamed Sylvina's father somehow for his own losses. Or maybe he even blamed Sylvina. We don't know. Or maybe he has some kind of attachment to Sylvina that he just has to bring her with him, and that overall he was the mastermind from the outset of having them go in this direction, having them end up here, and that this is a betrayal that is at the core of the story right now, and then shifts the entire playing out of the story. Maybe Rask becomes the main motivating factor now in driving the narrative, in being our kind of main PC. And this is where, as a soloist, you have to allow yourself some flexibility to decide that might feel like the right thing to do, to not abandon a story, but to change a perspective, to shift your own mindset as to what is the kind of main character you're playing. Perhaps that's one way to go. Another way to go would be to simply say they succeeded in their agility. They were able to continue on, traveling down or whatever they were doing. That doesn't feel to me like what I would do. What it feels to me like I would do is put the pause here and essentially go underground and flip the narrative, like not only in terms of where my focus was character-wise, but where my focus is topographically. So this has been very much an overland journey. And in essence, I would just flip it all and take the characters underground, sort of fast forward through repeated, if their tendrils are everywhere, eventually they're going to fail an agility test. They're going to become tired and weary. They're going to run out of their supplies. And that could be symbolized by a diminished amount of dice that they get to roll with their agility as they tire out. Again, this is me going off the built-in rules, but it makes narrative sense. And that's something that's very important to do as a soloist, is to allow the flexibility of the rules to make sense with your story, because you are playing it and writing it, creating it, as we know. So eventually one could fast forward and say they become weird, they become tired, the ash tree wife puts her tendrils around them, brings them underground, and then that is the next scene. And that is what it feels to me like is going to happen here. And then once you're there, taking in whatever direction you can go. So I hope you've enjoyed this look into Vaesen. It is as mentioned at the outset of the video, a physically beautiful physical product and artistically designed. Allow yourself to become involved with the beautiful art that is throughout the book. It's very evocative, and while it is described as a horror role-playing game, there's something about it that I feel is sort of more mysterious in a way or fantastical than deeply horrific. And I think that is the sense that you get from the art, and the feeling of the gameplay is that way. This is one of my favorite pieces of art in the book. So allowing that feeling to inform the way your story develops, which is what I think I am doing here, will bring you in harmony with what this rule set is offering that is different than other rule sets, and allow you to use the very flexible mechanics of the game to play out a story that is one of mystery and horror, but also something that's very almost fairy tale-like in its horror. I think that's the feeling that I get, particularly from this art.